Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, the new General Data Protection Regulation seminar, and today's topic is how Oracle security products may assist compliance. So first of all, a disclaimer. So the content and detail within this webinar is aimed as advisory, so this presentation can't be construed as or used as any legal advice. So just a quick disclaimer there at the outset to say what we're talking about here is advisory, and you should seek your own legal counsel on any of the content towards meeting compliance for GDPR. A quick introduction as to who's on the webinar today. Myself, Matthew Alsop, an account director for Inoapps, and we're also kindly joined by Simon Wickenden, a senior consultant at Arrow. So in terms of today's agenda, what we're looking to do first of all is have a quick refresher. 2 to 3 weeks ago we ran another webinar which was related to cybersecurity. So we'll do a quick recap of the main points of that. We'll then look at the GDPR and the key most salient points from the regulation. We'll pick a few of those to look at. We'll then specifically look at the area of database security, and we'll relate that back to GDPR terms and the Oracle tools available to assist in compliance. We'll take the same approach with identity and access security, again looking at the terms and relating the Oracle tools. And as a final area, we'll look at cloud security. So what package solutions are on offer currently for organizations using the Oracle database. And as a final step, we'll look at what next. So what can Inoapps and Oracle and Arrow do to help you on your compliance journey and to assist with tightening your data security. And then time permitting, we'll take any questions and answers. So first slide, so it's a quick recap. Hopefully a few of you did manage to attend session 1, which was related to cybersecurity. It was run by my colleague Adrian Collis, and it focused on, I guess, some of the areas of hacking into data, how easily that can be done. And more importantly, it picked up on some of the key points for GDPR. So the whole topic was based around the changes that are due to happen. So just to recap on those, on the 25th of May 2018, the General Data Protection Regulation will replace the current EU directives which was put in place in 1995, and that is what the UK's Data Protection Act was based on. Very topical at the moment with yesterday's events, obviously Brexit. Brexit won't actually save you from your obligations towards GDPR. So if you are working with other organisations who are based in the EU, if your organisation has operations in the EU and outside of the UK, then those rules must be looked at and adhered to. And importantly, a legal basis must exist for data flow between the UK and the EU. So again, looking at it from both an internal organisation perspective, but from a customer perspective as well. And probably the most scary and crucial point of the GDPR is that it can have significant financial consequence. So any breaches as a result of negligence, an organisation could be fined up to 4% of gross income or £20 million sterling. So hopefully, you know, an area which is going to focus minds ahead of next May, but something that someone should have a key understanding of and start working towards. A quick few examples. These were highlighted in the previous session of data breaches. As you can see there, a number of organisations in different vertical markets and industries, different ways of data breaches. So an NHS trust having leaked email addresses, Staysure, obviously some hackers stole 5,000 customer credit card details. And perhaps one I remember the most was TalkTalk, where effectively hackers accessed personal data of over 150,000 customers. More recently, there have been others reported in the press and in the news. So ISIS hacked into NHS websites, Sports Direct were hacked last year. But the important thing to mention here, obviously, is a recurring event, so no one unfortunately is alone here, and I think the data breaches that are reported on a regular basis, they seem to be increasing as organisations' environments, technical environments get more complex. So I thought it useful ahead of running through the specific GDPR terms and Oracle's products just to look at some of the sources of data breaches. So we've taken this straight out of a data source and a website called the Breach Level Index, as you can see, dated 22nd of March. So the first pie chart on the left-hand side splits it out by industry. And as you would expect, the technology industry remains, I guess, the prime area where most data records have been stolen. But the important trend to see there, obviously, is across various vertical markets and industries. So it's not one industry which is protected from these data breaches, and those numbers are catching up on a regular basis. If we move across the screen, you can see as well the breach incidents by source. I don't think there's anything unexpected in what you see there, in that the majority still remain a malicious outside attack, but also accidental loss and inside attacks have become more frequent. So we'll pick up a few of those points when we look at the terms and products available. The breach incidents by type, again, I think this is in trend with what's reported in the press, that identity theft seems to be the major area of breach and the way of attacking organisations, but equally other areas are catching up: financial access, account access, and simply people wanting to interrupt business operations by creating a nuisance attack. That seems to be increasing as well. So I think there's an abundance of statistics out there, breaches reported. So what we've tried to do is kind of amalgamate that into just some percentages. Now, these are very loose percentages, that, don't quote us on these percentages, but if you take a broad brush, numbers across all industries, some key facts: 90 to 98% of records stolen are taken directly from the database. So we're going to pick up on that point specifically, look at the GDPR terms and look at the products available from Oracle. 85 to 95% of all record theft is discovered by a third party. So don't be that last organisation to know you've had a data breach or records have been stolen. So, it tends to be that other people report that, and you don't want to find yourselves in the press before you know about the breach yourself. 80 to 85% of records breached are using stolen credentials. So again, that goes back to identity theft and marries up with the 61% you see above. And 90 to 99% of all successful hacking activity exploits security holes that have been fixed for over 6 months. So we'll kind of pick up on that and some of the measures you can take to avoid that happening. So if we look at the GDPR, we've picked out just a key of the few salient points we can gather from the article and the regulation. But before we look at those articles, just wanted to put it into key areas which the GDPR addresses. So the security requirements it insists you look at and work towards. Firstly, you must be able to assess your security risks. So you must be able to look at your current infrastructure environments and say where you're vulnerable to attack. Secondly, obviously you want to be able to prevent attacks. So what can be done to lock down that data and protect your organisation from those types of attacks? Thirdly, breach detection. We've just talked about that. Don't be the last to find out you have a breach. So the Act or regulation is suggesting that you need to report back on that to the data owners very quickly. So breach detection is crucial. And level and quality of protection. There's some guidelines within GDPR which talk about what sort of protection you need for types of sensitivity of data. And just on the right hand side, there's some key definitions I'd like you to bear in mind as we go through this webinar. So the first of which is the term processor. So that means a natural or legal person, public authority, agency or other body which processes data on behalf of the controller. So the controller, as you expect, that's the data owner. But what we're saying here is that it's not a sole responsibility of the person who owns that data. If you're working with third parties who use that data, then there's obligations towards them for GDPR compliance. So we didn't want to present you with an 88-page document to read because that's how long the GDPR regulation is. What we've tried to do is pick out just a few of the key articles and topics that we could explore with you. So if we look at the first one, Article 25, this talks about data protection by design and by default. So I'm not going to read word for word that particular article, but if we pick out just one key term there, it's pseudonymization. So what does that mean? That means taking data which is and has kind of crucial identifying fields in a data record and replacing it with one or more artificial identifiers or pseudonyms. So just making it illegible to someone who has no clue of that particular pseudonym. Article 32 is talking about security of processing. So here, I'm not going to read it out, but the key words to pick up on: pseudonymization, encryption of personal data. Now, encryption we're going to look at specifically in a few slides' time, but it talks as well as having the ability to regularly test, assess, and evaluate the measures that are put in place. So again, it needs to be an ongoing process when you're looking at your data security. It can't be a point in time, it's got to be a continuous process. Article 34, this talks about communication of a personal data breach to the data subject. So again, just picking up on, in a nutshell, what that means. You've got to be able to track and monitor data breaches and be able to report that straight away back to the data owner, controller, or indeed the processor. So don't be the last to find out. You need to have certain measures in place to report on those data breaches. So I'd promised to look at database security as one particular key area, given the statistic we saw earlier. So what we want to do is try and relate that back to some of the terms that you see in the GDPR, and more importantly, what Oracle tools are available which may assist with compliance. So we look at this slide, it shows the red terms of the GDPR, so the first one being encryption. We're going to drill down in that specifically, so I think most people will be aware with that term and understand what it means. The second one is pseudonymous data. Tools that are available from Oracle include data masking, encryption and redaction. So time permitting, we may try and look at some of those at a later date. Risk assessment and breach notification, we've just understood why and how that is so important. Audit vault and DB firewall, we're going to look at in a bit more detail in a separate slide. But how do organizations give limited access to their data? So there's quite a list there you see on the right as to Oracle products which are available to achieve that. Again, we're just going to pick out perhaps one of those to run through that. So if I may, I will pass on to Simon now to run through perhaps at a slightly more technical level, just a few of these key options.
Sure, Matt, thank you. So what I wanted to do is I actually wanted to look at some of the headline terms that we'd used earlier in terms of the areas of breach and marry those up with some Oracle products that would help you in those scenarios. So talking about the records being stolen direct from the database, looking at that as an area, the easiest solution is encryption. But with encryption, don't think about just encrypting the disks that the database is on. If you can get onto the operating system and your disks are encrypted, that doesn't help you at all. Encrypting the database is the place where it's going to save you the most. We've all heard about people leaving backup disks on trains and that data getting into the World Wide Web and being distributed everywhere. This is a breach where Oracle Advanced Security can help you. Oracle Advanced Security gives you access to transparent data encryption. This is a way of encrypting the data in the database. That basically means that all of the data is encrypted, not just on the disk, but as part of your backups, any exports that you need to do, and of course, if you're saving your backups in off-site facilities, that's encrypted too. I'm not going to run through the slides details. It was far more about the use case than anything else. Looking at the next use case, we were looking at the fact that most, or yeah, 85% of records that are actually accessed are accessed using stolen credentials, or they're accessed by someone maliciously inside the organization, gaining access to data. How can you stop that? And the answer is fairly simple. There's a product called Oracle Database Vault. So Oracle Database Vault will allow you as the controller to set privileges on the actual data in your database. That means that a generic DBA, that could be someone from an outsourced organization, that could be a contractor, it could be a member of your own staff. A DBA to do sort of standard household tasks does not need access to the actual data. He doesn't need to be able to see what the chief exec earns, for instance. I'm sure he'd be highly interested, but he doesn't need that access. So what Database Vault allows you to do is set security accesses. So that DBA can still access the database. He can still do all the house cleaning tasks that he needs to do, but he can't see the actual data itself. However, obviously, some DBAs are going to need access to the data. You've got application DBAs who could be cleaning up a problem. They will need to access the actual data on occasions. But again, you can control that. You can enforce times when they're allowed to do it. You can log and track what he's actually doing while he's doing it. So this is a product that secures your data and allows you control over who's accessing it and when. The next area was about finding out that someone has taken some of your data, or is even trying to take some of your data. The last thing you want is to find out on the news at 10. So here Oracle Database Vault and Database Firewall comes into its own. This has a number of out-of-the-box reports that will track and monitor access to databases or attempted access to databases. You could basically use this product to allow only certain applications to access certain databases in certain ways. One of the key things about this is it will alert you to attempted accesses that fall outside of the accesses that you've set up. The really interesting thing about this product actually is it's far more than just an Oracle product. So rather than just monitoring Oracle databases, it has the ability to monitor Oracle's MySQL, but also Sybase database, DB2 from IBM, and SQL from Microsoft. So, and again, there are setup policies and custom, set up out-of-the-box reporting for all of those databases. So it's all there. It's all fairly easy just to run. The final area was the one that I found most shocking when I was looking into this, and this is the area around where hacks have been done, i.e. it's not been done using stolen credentials, where hacks have got into databases, and how often it is that those security loopholes that have been exploited have been found and patched, often way more than 6 months before. And it's literally the case that organizations haven't kept on top of their patching policies. Under GDPR, that is going to be something that's going to be picked up on in a very serious way. So Oracle have a product called Oracle Enterprise Manager. That is a very extensible product that has a number of built-in solutions to monitoring and ensuring that patch levels are right. I mean, one of the interesting ones, anyone doing PCI compliance, for instance, OEM has the ability to monitor your PCI compliance. It understands which patches you require. Oracle update what patches are required if there's been a security breach in any of their products. And this is all at the click of a button. You can tell whether your system is PCI compliant to the latest PCI compliant patch regime. The other product that falls nicely is an extension to OEM, which is the Oracle Database Lifecycle Management Pack. Now, this is a product that most people know as a product that helps you patch your systems or your databases. It does far more than that. It allows you to monitor the patches, check what patches are there, do a gap report as to what patches should be there to what they are to make sure you're performing to best standards. But far more importantly, it will also look for people injecting incorrect patches or patches that have been put in to create a security loophole for later. It will detect those unauthorized changes and flag those to you. So again, a very powerful product, I think, when GDPR comes online. Matt, those were the products that I highlighted, so back over to you.
Okay, fantastic, Simon. Thank you for running through those. So the other area we'd promised to have a quick look at was identity and access management. So in the first section, we've talked about database security. What we're doing now is looking at the application and middleware tiers, again, taking the same approach of looking at some terms and some of the Oracle tools available. So I think for us to drill down into all of these tools, I think that would warrant a second webinar. So we'll keep this fairly high level for now, just so you can see some of those tools that are available. So taking the same approach, looking at those terms again, so the first of which is monitoring and access. So obviously within the Oracle product set, you have the ability to, as Simon says, kind of monitor access. Obviously he's referred to database, but the same applies at the application and middleware tier. There is an identity and access management pack and identity governance program available from Oracle, which will allow you to do that functionality. Secondly, in the term unified access enforcement, what the GDPR asks for is obviously if you can belt and braces, put in place processes and protocol for access. So access management could be simply some seamless single sign-on to any application. Benefit, being it lowers kind of help desk related support costs if you're thinking from an operational perspective. But from a GDPR perspective, obviously it is a way of locking down data and granting certain rights and privileges to certain applications. Area 3 talks about user identification. That is the same process really, just expanding on that access management piece into directory services. And the fourth area is access to data. We've talked in length about that to the database level, but the same applies. There is actually a product out there for API platform cloud service, which allows developers who are building new APIs using a kind of a modern interface with life cycle management to have the most up-to-date security in place and wrap around on that. So that's still in development or kind of in process, but a tool which will be very powerful to developers. We'd also said we'd look at cloud security. Cloud is a huge topic for everyone at the moment, and obviously will address and have considerations for GDPR. So what we're doing in the next slide is just looking at some of the package solutions designed to aid compliance. As I say, go back to these are designed to further your ability to achieve compliance, not guarantee it, but extremely good tools, extremely much easier ways of doing things. So we've picked out just one particular product or service, so it's the Oracle Database Cloud Service. Key thing to mention at the top of this slide that many people may not be aware of is that Oracle's database software is the same on-premise as it is in the cloud. So if you were to consider transitioning or moving one of your databases to a cloud environment, it's the same product. Other vendors out there can't boast that same functionality and feature. So if you're transitioning, it makes it far easier to do so, of course. The other thing everyone will be very familiar with is the concept of cloud and subscriptions. So my advice to organizations ahead of GDPR would be to perhaps pick one or two key databases and look at some of the modules or packages below and make use of those Oracle security products. So building on that particular point, Oracle do give you the ability to choose your package to suit. So as you can see, there's a standard package, obviously entry point package for organizations. That includes transparent data encryption, which Simon talked about earlier. But as you move along the matrix, you see obviously all of those leading security products are included as standard in those. So please think about trying that ahead of the deadline, just locking down your data, see how beneficial it can be for your organization. So what's next? How can Inoapps, Arrow, Oracle help you on your compliance journey? What sort of expertise can we offer? So just as a quick headline, our organisation in terms of size, capability, structure. So we've got over 10 years experience of delivering Oracle solutions across their entire stack. So we're talking application, middleware and core database. Importantly on this slide as well, you'll notice we're a global operation. So we have the ability to obviously deliver across and outside of the UK. So hugely important across kind of APAC, US, EU regions. But probably one of our kind of most proud accolades we have is that we were recently voted the Oracle SaaS Cloud Transformation Partner of the Year globally and across EMEA. So we're up against some very stiff competition there. Pleased that all our capability and expert skills were recognised in winning that award. But what does it mean for organisations? If they're considering a cloud or a SaaS-based journey, we're a very safe pair of hands for delivery. And hot off the press from last night, Oracle Awards, we actually won Database as a Service Partner of the Year. So again, just giving organisations comfort that we can help them on that transition to cloud. Just looking at the enterprise-wide coverage, quickly, we've only focused today on technology. So we've looked at database and middleware specifically. We're not here in the slide deck and content covering off any SaaS-related security messaging. But what we have in abundance is obviously expert services and skills to back up all of that portfolio coverage. And what we'll also try and do is look at industry-specific solutions, understand your challenges, and adapt and customize a solution to fit. What would a typical Oracle security engagement look like with Inoapps? As you'd expect, the first step is a discovery phase. So what we can offer our customers and prospects alike is we can come in, look at your current configuration of your Oracle database, your e-business suite environment, your middleware. We'll look at your server security, we'll look at network, what auditing is in place, and how are users accessing that. So we'll look at all those areas and combine that into relevant data capture. We'll then assess that against best practice. So what have we seen out there in best practice, and what recommendations would we make back to your organisation to improve security? Key thing then, obviously, we would work with organisations to develop a roadmap to ensure that recommendations are implemented. And that implementation could cover native Oracle tools. It could be some of the specific Oracle security options that Simon talked about earlier. So happy to look at what is going to be the best fit for your organisation and requirements. And finally, with this database security, as I said, it's an ongoing process. So what we insist on is revisiting this exercise. Some organisations are comfortable with 12 months, some want it to be quarterly, some want it to be more frequent than that. So what we do is revisit that with them, constantly looking at levels of patching, looking at security across those types of infrastructure and reporting back so remediation can be done. I appreciate, within the 30-minute slot, we've tried to cover and give a flavour of some of the terms that are in GDPR, which organisations need to be aware of. But more importantly, what Oracle help is available out there if you're an Oracle user? What tools exist which may aid in compliance? So a couple of information sources to mention. If you're insistent on reading the whole GDPR, obviously the link is there, it's H8-page document. Also, we've used Oracle's white paper. So Oracle have a really good white paper which looks at database security in respect to GDPR. Other useful resources you might find available, Oracle Key Vault and Advanced Security Demonstration, that's available on the link you see. But why not listen to some customers who've actually used Oracle database security products? Listen to their stories, listen to how they've benefited from that and how more relaxed they are about Oracle database security. Quick heads up of future webinar series, Wednesday 5th of April, Managing Revenue Restatement for IFRS, more for finance. Wednesday 26th of April, revenue recognition again. Please send that on to finance colleagues alike and register events. So I'm conscious we're quite tight on timeline, but if we can take any kind of questions and answers. I think we've just had one come in actually, Simon, so if we can look at that particular question first of all. So the customer or attendee has asked, we've just talked about just a few of the Oracle products available. Could you give a quick overview of data masking?
I'll take that one. Yeah, sure. So data masking it's part of the Oracle Enterprise Manager suite. Its primary use is in copying data from a database in a, I'm going to try the word, pseudonymized way. So basically what you can do is take data from a production database and move it to another database for other purposes. If you were using, say, credit card data and moving them to another database, that would be a breach of PCI regulations. So best not to do that. Data masking allows you to take that data and convert it. So it would take the credit card data and leave a number that looked like it could be a credit card but isn't the original data. This allows you to do test and evaluation on your systems without actually giving away the data that's obviously your crown jewels of your business.
Okay, thank you for that quick overview. I mean, obviously more data is available and information from us on that particular topic, but hopefully that gives a quick flavour of that product. Another question, do these Oracle products guarantee compliance with GDPR? Probably one for me to take. So as I said at the start of the presentation, these products may assist with becoming compliant, but they will not single-handedly grant the rubber stamp of approval. So they're effectively tools which you can work towards addressing some of the articles of the regulation, but please seek advice, obviously, outside of this webinar. But the products are fantastic. You know, they do a great job in helping towards compliance for GDPR in May next year. Another question. We host some of our data with a third party. What does this mean for us? So I think this goes back to the definitions I presented at the start, really, that there's a processor and a controller of data. So organisations who are perhaps hosting, supporting or managing your data should work with you as the organisation, as the controller, to address some of these security areas. So yeah, you're not in sole responsibility or for that compliance. You know, it's a joint partnership between you and your third-party organisations. So
actually, Matt, if I chip in there as well, you bring up an interesting point, and the Database Vault product plays very well in this area, giving protection, but it absolutely gives protection to both the controller and the processor in that environment. Actually having the processor not being able to access the data directly gives them a huge due diligence boost in terms of GDPR regulations.
Okay, thank you for that, adding that, Simon. I think that's an important point to mention. So I think we're kind of due on time now, so thank you all for listening. If you have other questions, you've submitted questions, obviously we will get around to answering those in due course. We have all the relevant contact details. Trust that's been useful, and thank you very much for your time.